So good evening, everyone, and thank you, Claudia. Good morning to you for joining us today. I am Supriya Bhualka. I'm the founder of Coding and More. Coding and More, as many of you may know, is an edtech that specializes in AI education for children, of your age group, which is 8 years upwards. We are very, very passionate that children not just learn AI in the classroom, but are also very well versed with what is happening in the world around them, because AI is changing so quickly. And as you all may know, with the Chat GPT, DALI, Midjourney, so many of these generative AI tools, now it's becoming really difficult to know what is real and what is fake. That's called misinformation, which is why we invited Claudia, who is joining us from the US, and I think it's 9:30 in the morning for her, who is going to explain to you what is information and how to avoid it. And she will tell you from her experiences. So to tell you a little bit about Claudia Ramly is a seasoned speaker. She's been speaking for 15 years plus, and she's bridging machine learning and human learning across technology, education, and healthcare. So, she has delivered more than 250 workshops and keynotes in more than 20 countries through Medtronic, UNESCO, Policy Wisdom, and many, many other international organizations. And she's extremely learned. She has a master's in education psychology, learning sciences, and a master's in public health. And we are all still in school, right? Such a long way to go. So she speaks on topics like machine learning, misinformation, healthcare. There are a lot of things she speaks about, and I know that it might become too much mumbo jumbo for you. So I'm going to pass it over to Claudia, and she's going to take over from now. Thank you. So over to you, Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Supriya, for this wonderful introduction. And thank you all for being here. The fact that you are investing your time and it's your evening to be here means a lot to me. And that's great that you're investing in your learning and trying to be ahead of all the misinformation that might take place with AI. So I also want to congratulate you for being here. So I will share my screen and we can begin. All right, so today, as Supriya said, it's really an honor for me to be here, and we're going to talk about AI and misinformation. So there's so much happening out there, and Supriya said that it's happening so fast, and everyone, or a lot now, are having access to AI-generated tools. And so everyone can spread information in false ways, whether they do it intentionally or not intentionally. So we have to pay attention to both these types of misinformation. So let me start a bit about, very briefly about me. As Supriya said, I have worked a lot in the field of both machine learning, understanding how humans can learn through tutoring systems, and how humans learn themselves through traditional methods. I worked a lot with AI devices in the medical care, and I also did research on misinformation when I was pursuing my graduate program. So my field now, I work a lot in the field of research and knowledge curation. So how does knowledge go back and forth? Sorry, I'm going to try to remove this annotation here. Let's see if it will disappear so that we don't end up having... Okay, we're going to still have that with us. Okay, I don't think, can you see it or not? Okay, here. All right, sorry. So my first question, and I'm going to hide this slide for now. I'd love for you to write in the chat, if you are trying to seek information, where do you go? What types of tools do you use? Or who do you ask? So just so I can get an idea about what are the sources of information. So you can write in the chat, what are some ways that you ask for information? Okay, I see ChatGPT, I see Google, Bing, Alexa. All right, someone goes to the library, Safari, Google. Great, someone goes to social media. Very good to know. Perfect. So that's really, really helpful. Lots of us are actually now going to ChatGPT to find information. Lots are going to Google. So if I asked this question maybe 3 years ago, it might be more likely Google libraries, but now we have a very interesting player in the field. So we're going to talk about AI, and we're going to talk about ChatGPT as well. So you mentioned Google, and yes, until very recently, if you wanted to know more information, that's where you go. You would go to Google and try to understand this topic. Some of you still go to a library, which is a great resource. But because of this very fast information, it might be just faster for you to sit down at your computer and log through and ask questions just there and get quick answers. Some of you mentioned ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has been a quick way for people to get information. And it has some great aspects to it, and it has some negative aspects that we need to be aware of so that you can use it very wisely and that you are the person who are controlling this tool, not the other way around. So let's talk about AI, in particular about generative AI. So AI that generates this information for you, whether it's words, text, or even images. We're going to talk about generative AI and misinformation. So as we said before, there are so many benefits to using it. And I'm going to give an example of ChatGPT, even though there are so many tools, like some of you mentioned Bing, Bard, Google Bard. So we're not talking about a particular tool, we're talking about generative AI. So as we said, it has great things, but it also has some faults because it can produce misinformation. Why? It might be surprising. Why would such a great tool produce misinformation? I'll show you a bit the idea behind it and how it works. So when I'm talking today about misinformation, also there's something known as disinformation. And it's not really a very big deal if you confuse the two, or if you mix the two, that's fine. According to a source that I will send with you at the end of this talk, misinformation could be misleading, erroneous, or false. Misinformation could be shared and sometimes created by people who are unaware that it's inaccurate. So this is sometimes the term we use when we know that the intent of the creator is unknown. Are they doing it on purpose or not? It's misinformation. Disinformation is a subset, so it's a smaller, it's under the big umbrella of misinformation, and it is created deliberately to misinform and mislead others. So people are doing it on purpose. So something interesting just to keep in mind, the difference between misinformation and when you see the word disinformation. But honestly, sometimes it is very difficult to know what is the intent of this person. Are they doing it on purpose or not? So our role when we consume this information is to be very wise about what is happening. So I'm going to show you some images and tell me if this is real in life or false. A pineapple-shaped chair. This was created by a generative tool called Midjourney. Here's another one. And here's the last one. So they look beautiful, but some of you might say, of course, this is not real. You can't, there's fruits are meant to be eaten, right? So your brain, when it looks at it, knows that this is actually something that is not real. It's made, it's an art piece. But sometimes it gets more confusing. I don't know if you saw these pictures before, but they have been circulating around Midjourney of people hiking with bears. So I see a question about disinformation again. I promise I'll come back to it. So thank you for pointing that out. So some of you might have seen those pictures circulating around the internet. And at first, they are confusing because they look very real. So if you look at these pictures, they look very real. So sometimes it's harder for you to know whether this is really happening or not because the tools are becoming more and more accurate and even more professional in generating images that are real life. So this was also created by a user. I was unable to find exactly who, so I put a reference that you know that this was created by Midjourney. I'm not sure who the user is to give them credit for this. So let me go back a bit to disinformation, just so we can be all on the same page. So misinformation is that big umbrella. Okay, we know what misinformation is. Disinformation is just remember the word deliberate, on purpose. So that's when someone creates information that's wrong, maybe for many reasons, to share bad information about somebody else. Maybe it's a political party against another. Maybe it's somebody who is sharing disinformation to sell a product. So that is, disinformation is deliberately created on purpose to misinform and mislead, versus misinformation that can happen whether we know intentionally or unintentionally. So I will move forward to the problem. So when you saw those pictures, there is a lot of problems behind using ChatGPT, sometimes even Bard, Bing, other generative AI, Midjourney. So I'm not really specifying one tool or the other. We're talking about generative AI in general. So AI appears, so we think because it's a technology that it is neutral. But I'm here to remind you that humans have built this technology, and humans have biases, and humans have sometimes even a way of looking at the world that's different than other parts of the world. So think about this. Remember that AI might actually give you information because of the information that was inputted in it, that was used to build this technology. I'll give you an example. Women, for example, in the STEM field, in the technology field, are not really very represented. So if someone who is a scientist is putting in all the data into this AI tool, they might actually reflect more of the men's views and data and not the women's. So sometimes when you ask for information, you might not get the full picture simply because there's no data that was used to build the technology. So that's a very simple example. Another problem, I don't know if you have experienced it, but also be very careful. Sometimes these tools have outdated views. And I've experienced this personally because I work in research. Sometimes when I cross-check references, I realize that there is more updated information about this that the generative AI tool did not get. So that is also another problem, because remember, some of these tools actually stop by 2021. So even ChatGPT tells you, as an LLM, as a language model, they don't have any updated information after 2021. So remember, you are not getting updated information. So that is also another problem. Number 3, be careful. Fake citations and sources. A lot of students I know are trying to use ChatGPT to write essays and cite. And if you actually take some time, look at the citations, they are fake. They do not exist. The link is broken. So be very careful. Something that's easy and that's quick isn't always the best choice. So you really need to use your critical skills, and you need to be in control and understand what is happening. And then remember, everyone can create misinformation or disinformation. So everyone has access to this, so everyone can use it in different ways. So these are really very important problems. They're not all the problems, there's many more.
Get the all out from the thing with this, there's a very...
Oh, I thought there was a question. So there might be more problems that I didn't share, but these are some of the general ones. So I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions before we proceed. I'm going to bring, if you see me looking this way, it's because my chat icon for you is right here. So I'm going to check if there's anybody who mentioned something. Yes, we have a question.
Ariana, go ahead, darling.
Miss, I just wanted to ask, does ChatGPT ever give, can spam messages ever come on that?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge, because it depends on what you are giving, the information you are putting in. So it doesn't do that automatically without you asking for information about a certain topic. So Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll take one more and then we can continue. Is there any other question about what we talked about so far? If you want, Supriya, feel free to pick one question and then I can come back to the other ones later. Okay, I can pick. Let me see. I don't have... Aman and Parv, I can see your, if you want to ask your question.
Miss? Miss?
Yeah, go ahead.
If we put wrong information, ChatGPT makes mistakes. But if we put half wrong and half right mistakes, what will ChatGPT do?
Well, that's a really good question. So there's a term that we use sometimes that says garbage in, garbage out. So it's a funny idea, but the idea is if you put bad information in, you're always going to get bad information out. So, and even if you put good information in, remember there are problems. AI is not neutral. AI has old data from 2021. AI sometimes gives fake citations just because it's not meant to be used for writing a paper. Citing, because it's not an updated model. So you might also, even with good information, get, let me remove the annotation because we are getting lots of annotations on the slide here. Okay. And so that's the idea. So garbage in, garbage out, but also, even if you put right information, it might be outdated. All right. Now, let me go to a couple more slides before we talk about the solution. These are some red flags that you need to watch out for. These I got them from a big organization that works on news literacy. So it tries to help people know fake information in media from correct ones. And it says sometimes there are some flags you have to watch out for, especially if you use social media to get information. So now with AI, you can generate a lot of things on social media. So be careful. If you see phrases that are big, let that sink in. The media isn't going to talk about this. Make this go viral. Do your own research. There are no coincidences. So really big words, be careful about them. It's probably someone who wants this message to spread around and spread misinformation. So there are lots of misinformation happening, and what you can do, what's the solution? I shared a couple of things. First, always question the source. Today, if you notice, Supriya brought me here, and she talked about my credentials. So this is one way you can know that what I'm talking about is based on my expertise. So if you're asking about a source, question it. Who is this person? What did they do? Have they worked in this field? Are they eligible to talk about this information? So question it. And also question the article. Who wrote it? Is there a name? If the article does not have a name, if it's a website, if there's no link, question it. It might be false. Number two, improve your research. So I got a great question from all of you about spam, about if you put in good and bad information, what happens? You have to see what is coming out of this information. There's something known as lateral reading. You don't have to worry about this word. It's a bit complex, but it says you need to read quickly from top to bottom, see who's writing it, what are they talking about, where is this information coming from, so that, and find other sources to be sure if this is correct. And finally, a good skill to have, and I really am happy that you all came to attend this, is to improve your digital literacy. So Supriya's work is amazing because she is creating the opportunities for you to be exposed and to develop your skills in everything. Especially there's a skill known as digital literacy. So take a minute, think about this with yourself. What else can you do to help prevent misinformation? So no need to answer that out loud, but think and reflect. What can you do to prevent misinformation? All right. A couple more slides and then we will finish. I wanted to show you some good examples of well-known organizations. And I gave 2 examples in the United States, but there are more great examples out in the world. So don't only use these. There are many, many examples out there, even where you reside. So reach out to people who are doing great work, like Supriya is. So here are some ways that you can look and train yourself to find misinformation. The American Psychological Association, for example, has a very good tool which helps identify how much is too much social media. They even have a quiz, which is fun, and you can try it. I will send a link where you can see whether you can identify if an information is wrong or right. So they have a lot of fact-checking online information. And the American Psychological Association recommends lots of people to be trained in social media skills so that it minimizes the risks for you to spread misinformation or even be misled by misinformation. Finally, another tool, which is the one I showed you, some pictures about the red flags. It comes from this site. So see, I'm sharing my sites with you so that you know where they're coming from. This is a news literacy project. It's an education nonprofit, and they are trying to help people identify good news from bad news. And they also have lots of good examples. So you need to train yourself. So by attending today, now you have an idea how to be prepared to find out misinformation from real information. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed seeing how you think about this topic, the sources of information you get, and I hope now you feel more prepared to address this much better. I will stop sharing my slide and I will give the mic back to Supriya. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. That was really insightful. I know that Atharva has a burning question for you because he's patiently waiting to ask you. So I will ask Atharva to quickly ask you his question.
Yes.
Good evening. Ma'am, actually, as you know that ChatGPT is updated from 2021 or 2022 till, but you are saying that information about information, it will the ChatGPT will not give you the live information or updated information. But as you know, there are some more like AI that is connected to internet. Like if you ask ChatGPT to tell me the time, it will not tell me because it is not connected to the internet. But Brad is one of the Google ones. It is connected to the internet and it is absolutely free. And if I ask the latest news from him, it will tell me. Like so you can't say that the information from all the information from AI and all it's wrong.
That's true. That's a very, very good point. And thank you for bringing up this and the differences. Yes. So some of them, like Bing, for example, Microsoft Bing, are connected to the internet. And also be careful that sometimes it won't find the information that you need if you're doing research, because you might, as a person entering this information, might not ask the right questions. So I've tried it, for example, when I'm doing some research on something, if it was a simple question like, I have vegetables in my fridge and I want to make a nice vegetarian dish. You're going to get information and that's perfect. You're going to make your meal. It's not going to affect anybody. Sometimes when you ask more complex information like, did this country have a law about this topic? So sometimes it gives me an answer and I go back to Google and I look in different ways. I look at different, I find a different answer or another answer that I did not know about. So that's a very good point, Atarf. Thank you for sharing this. Yes.
Ma'am,
Some
but
tools,
like you are saying that Bing and Google, they are the search engines. They bring us to the websites. So how,
yeah,
ma'am, so
yeah,
how,
because
ma'am, but how it's like you're saying that the Google is giving us information, not the websites. The
yes, so
websites are
it's sort
giving
of,
information.
yeah, it summarizes the information. So it doesn't tell you you can find this information, right? It gives you very quick 1 or 2 resources. And if you try it on Bing, you can actually see there are different drafts that it comes out with. So you can try it. You can ask a very difficult question, and then try to go to Google and look at other ways of people explaining the same concept, because sometimes words have different meanings or words can have different examples. So this is a great point. You can still use it and it's not wrong, but it might not be the complete picture. So something to keep in mind, right? If you decide to use it as is, make a point that this might be your search tool. If you want to do some cross-checking, you can also look at different ways.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
But
That's a great question and a very good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kids, any other questions that you may have? Is it clearer to you? Misinformation, disinformation, and all the tips Claudia gave you, to cross-check your facts, to do extra reading, to make sure that what you're getting is a complete picture? Please don't be afraid to ask. This is your place to learn and question. Saisha, you want to say something? You want to share? I know you're thinking. Sorry for calling out to you. Anyone? No? But can I give you all one tip, which also Claudia mentioned, is that if you know that there is something which is misinformation that you come across, she shared a website where you can report it. As responsible users, what you must do is not spread it. If you know that something is not seeming right, don't pass it on to your friend and say, look what I found, because you're just spreading misinformation. So those are good responsible behaviors that you can do. In fact, report it so that others also know not to fall for it, because they sound so real and convincing, right? Does anybody have any other question? Even teachers are most welcome to ask.
I'll say one comment, Priya, you reminded me, is sometimes even people who work with research or even people, sometimes we all fall for misinformation. So it's getting so much better at people spreading this information that it's harder and harder. So this is, I think of it like a muscle. You practice it, you train it. You, like Supriya said, you go look at other sources just to confirm if what you're doing is right, because this is our responsibility. And I love what you said, Supriya, about reporting it. So yes, think of it as training your muscle, being better at it, better at finding misinformation, knowing misinformation, and also not spreading it. So these are really, really great skills to have.
Yeah. Yes, Isha, you have something to share.
Yeah. So how do you tell if a photo is fake or video?
Very good question. Claudia, Isha's asking, how would you know whether a photo or a video is fake?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Sometimes it's really hard. I know some tools. I don't know their names at the top of my head, but they're being built where you bring back this image into it or this text, and it can tell you who generated it. So there are some people who are trying now to create those types of tools, and I don't have those names at the top of my head, but something good to research and look for.
Also, I have one more tip, if I may add to it. Isha, whenever you see an image or a video which you think may not be real, because of the context of it, because you may think that, it's not possible for this person to be wearing this particular outfit or to be seen, fighting or doing something political, which is not true of the whole picture, you should question it. That could this be actually true, or is it just to create, a political environment, right? So also look at the story behind it. If it doesn't fit in with the bigger story, it may not be true.
Okay.
I think Karan has a question.
I wanted to say that I believe a lot of the false information also comes through WhatsApp, where people message different things that spread false news, which may not necessarily be true.
Yes.
Because
Yes, absolutely.
because we think that it's coming from friends, so it has to be true or something, but we need to always be aware and check and double check whatever we're noticing on our messages, to make sure that we don't spread any false news and scare somebody.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And sometimes there's data that shows sometimes the misinformation spreads faster through friends because you trust them, right? So it goes even faster. So very, very good point. Yeah.
Krish, did you have something to ask?
No, that was my only thing, to just be aware on WhatsApp when you're receiving any messages.
Okay. And somebody in the chat has asked Claudia, how do the colleges have a working AI like Finder? I think she means a plagiarism app, maybe.
Oh, yes. So that's a really, really good question. What I do know is that a lot of professors at universities are now really putting paragraphs about using AI for research in their syllabus, trying to raise awareness about this. I am not sure what they're doing. I haven't been really involved a lot in colleges, but I believe that this is a really top priority for them now because of there's so much knowledge generated in colleges. So I'm sure that they are either looking to find those tools. They already have lots of plagiarism tools where you can find where this information is coming from, if it has been copied. So these already exist. And I'm also curious to see what else that they would be trying to develop. So this is a really fast-paced environment, and I'm sure that there are going to be really lots of changes to this now that more people are using it.
Yeah. Those are great questions. Yeah.
Does Ariana, I think, have a question as well? I think she's had her hand up for some time.
Sorry.
Miss, I wanted to ask that sometimes on like chats or something, some people use like AI to like, and also sometimes on billboards we see like messages saying that call this number for this like for AI sort of things, and I feel like they are spam. Why do people put those spam things? Is it for money or?
If you got your question right, and feel free to chime in, Supriya, Tanvi, anybody else. I think yeah, some people want, this is a business for them. They want to make money out of it. So there might also be, that would be a purpose. So again, have your your lens to try to think, why are they doing this? What are they getting out of it? Can I trust them? Who is behind this?
And also, if they do that, won't they be caught in jail? And like, if they're using bad AI, what type of AI will they be using?
So sometimes the founders of those AI tools, sometimes they restrict. It's hard really to find out who is doing what, because we mentioned before, it's very hard sometimes to know where the source of this information is coming from and who is behind it. So it's hard to really know who and identify them. So there's so many big organizations and governments trying to create laws and regulations around this to minimize misuse of these AI tools. And the founders of those AI tools are also trying to restrict people who use them until they are able to have a better and clearer idea. For example, I know about Midjourney, and there are so many other examples that restricted its use because some people were abusing this tool. So they created more tight regulations. So there are some actions towards this, but it is not complete. It's not safe, which is why we are trying to be better trained at identifying this.
Thank you.
Anyone else has any question? Okay, so thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Claudia. I won't keep you for long. Also, the children have to go for dinner and bed. But this has really been extremely, insightful, useful. And I'm sure that the children now, when they start reading and looking up things, they will have their thinking cap on, to check and cross-verify, before they believe everything that's written on the internet to be true. Right? That's the biggest takeaway that you guys must learn, because it's not a library. It has been made by all of us. So please always think, where is it coming from? And remember, this is a new technology, so things are changing very rapidly. So what we say today may not be true tomorrow. So keep learning and keeping yourself updated. And thank you once again, children, for being here. Thank you, Claudia, for this really lovely talk that you were able to simplify, in a language that all these children could understand.
Thank you. Thank you. It was my pleasure. And I will share the links to the resources I have. If you'd like to do a quiz to see how good you are at identifying misinformation, you can also try it there. And thank you again for all your time, especially that it's your evening. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia.